Greetings and welcome to our show, Fresh Geek Context. It is here we discuss insightful views on a routine bi-weekly basis over the incredibly nerdy things we can't stop talking about. To take you on this dorky ride are your hosts, Josh.
Be our guest.
And myself, Jay. So why don't you take a seat, sit back, relax. We're here to do all the heavy lifting. It's about to get nerdy. This is episode 13.
Beauties and the Beasts.
Through the years, if you are a being on this planet, you are probably aware of a French tale by the name of Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, I want to say it.
If you didn't know, the newest movie from Disney Studios is coming out next month, live-action remake, Beauty and the Beast.
So, this is a strategy, right?
What strategy?
You know, just take all the hits, take the Disney Renaissance era and make it into, make it over into live action.
I suppose, I don't know if I ever liked that whole idea anyway.
So, that's the topic today?
It can be. Do you want to talk about something else?
Well, hold on. Just walk me through this. Movie review from 20 years ago. And Beauty and the Beast things.
Yes, I like it. Okay, so it's like this. I like books.
I do too.
All right, and I figure what better way to discuss a classic?
But I didn't read it.
This isn't a book report.
You read it?
Ages ago, but yes.
Okay, so you can talk about some differences if there are any.
Yeah, there's always differences. And there's a book that I fell upon. It's pretty neat. I want to get your opinion on something.
So, Beauty and the Beast review, break, learning time.
Learning time.
Beauty and the Beast again with trailer anticipation and a book excerpt, right?
Yeah, no qualms here.
All right, go.
Okay, Josh.
Yes.
Beauty and the Beast, Disney classic. I have to ask this question because I never actually know what the answer is actually going to be.
I mean, I'm full of different answers, so yes.
I know, but sometimes you disappoint me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't. You don't have to apologize.
Okay.
Did you see the classic from way back when in the 90s?
Yes, I did see it.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, no, dude, that's the Disney Renaissance era. You know, you definitely had to have seen those Disney classics. So
now, but here's a more important question: did you see it in theaters or did you see it on the good old giant VHS tape?
VHS tape. I was too young to see it in theaters because I believe this came out in '91, so I was 1 year old.
Oh no. So, such a little baby, Josh.
I was a little baby. I didn't get to see it until I was a little bit older.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Okay. So, I feel like this is, again, more tradition. We always talk about first experiences. What was your first experience experiencing the classic? I don't even know if we can call it a classic because
it's a classic.
Many people, but no, I say that because many people are going to interact with this story and they're going to call their version or their favorite the classic.
Sure.
So what I consider a classic may not be somebody who's 60 or 70 considers a classic.
That's fair, but I feel like you can call this a Disney classic at least because, there are many versions of this tale, obviously.
There's actually, I've done a little bit of research for that little bit that we do later called learning time. And yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah. But I feel like you can call this one of the Disney animation classics for sure.
Aren't they all Disney classics though? Can that be argued?
I mean, I would not call honestly, as I'm going to hurt some feelings right now. I wouldn't call Lady and the Tramp a classic.
Oh, you take that back, sir. That is a classic.
I wouldn't exactly call the Aristocats.
That's a classic as well. Hey, listen.
I didn't say I don't like them.
Okay, how about this? I feel like we can all come to a conclusion on this one. I wouldn't say that Disney would consider Home on the Range a classic.
Okay, there we go. That's a big one.
Yeah, that was a bad movie.
Yeah, not a classic at all. Not a classic.
I
mean, I would definitely put Lady and the Tramp and Aristocats over that for sure.
Oh, that was
not to say that those are on the bottom either. I just want to put that out there.
No, but it's probably before your time. It's before my time too. But I consider it a classic because I remember my parents, showing me that movie when I was a kid.
I have them on VHS, so I have them. I've experienced those as well.
Okay,
but yeah, so I would consider Beauty and the Beast one of the better Disney classics.
Sure.
I'm trying to remember the first time I saw it. Obviously it's on VHS. Um, it must have been maybe, I don't know,
I'm
five,
gonna guess
six.
4. No, really, 5, 6. That was a little bit later.
Think
Okay.
so, yeah. Because that's when really I started like paying attention. Well, I paid attention to movies before, obviously, because I had seen Back to the Future before then. But
Mm-hmm.
that's when I started like, oh, this movie here. When we went to the supermarket or Costco, we would go to Costco a lot, and I'd be like, oh, can we buy this movie? And then that's when that started pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I got it like around there because I got Lion King, I got Beauty and the Beast, got Little Mermaid, all these things. Aladdin
Okay.
goes on, goes on. Um, I definitely to this day, um, I do like Beauty and the Beast, and I do remember liking it when I first watched it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, did not get played as much as the other Disney Renaissance era movies, for sure.
Okay. What
Um,
would you say is a movie that is more played or more worn down from Josh play?
Lion King,
Uh-huh. Okay.
easily.
Okay. Okay.
Lion King
So
and
that's the
Aladdin.
top. So that's the top for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I dig it. I dig it.
But I mean, I haven't seen it in a very long time. I actually just watched it recently because we were getting ready for this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Before recently though, it's been a good few years since I've seen it though. So watching it again these last few days, it's been like wow, like I remember it, but I don't remember it at the
So
same
does
time.
so now that's interesting because now I get to ask you this very important, interesting question.
Sure.
Does nostalgia hold up or does it feel the same? Do you get the same feelings?
I do get the same feelings because as the songs are playing, I'm like, oh yeah, I do remember that song. I do like this song, a lot,
Mm-hmm.
particularly the Gaston song.
Oh,
Um,
that's my
I
favorite.
really, really like the Gaston song. When it started playing again, I was like, oh, that's right. I did like this one a lot. And then of course the Be Our Guest is like the big, big, big song. Besides, of course, the Tale as Old as Time.
Oh,
But
God.
the Be Our Guest is like this is the animation where everything gets done. Everything's big and huge.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which side question?
Side question.
So all these plates and everything, they're supposed to be like servants to the beast, right? Like they were
Mm-hmm.
like his butlers and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Did they
Yeah.
have plates before they were turned into plates?
I remember asking myself that question as a kid. I don't know why my mind went there.
Because
I'm like,
every
did they
person is a fork or a plate or a spoon. I'm like, did they not have any of this stuff before they were turned into them?
or a rug or a pedestal
Yeah.
or
The
chairs or
dog's
furniture?
a freaking like foot stand.
Yeah, I don't know if they ever explained that, and I don't know if there are any popular theories that go into what happened.
I'm like, the
I don't
second
I
these
don't
people
know.
turned to normal, they had to go shopping for like plates and teacups and everything.
Well, I mean, you could also argue that the beast was very adept at eating off his hands,
It's
so
true.
he's fine.
And another thing, there were like 50 teacups in that freaking cupboard.
Yeah.
That woman got busy if they're all her children.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there were no rules back then. You just gotta take care of your business.
So
But I
so
mean, you could also argue that those are just the children
I mean that's fair. That's fair.
of all. You know what I mean?
But
Like that's me
she
assuming
clearly
positive
calls them
intent.
you go sleep with your brothers and sisters.
But that could be just a term or a colloquial term that says just go to sleep with your peers or the people that you know.
I'll give you that.
But again, but at the same time, I don't really read too much into that line. I do think it's strange that the actual furniture disappeared,
Right.
or
Yeah, that's weird.
were they separated? I don't know. It's a strange spell, and as a matter of fact, there's actually this thing. Like, there's certain places that are on the internet that I try very hard to stay away from as much as possible, only because you'll fall upon a theory and then you'll start reading the comments and then you'll keep falling onto these blogs or you just keep going and you never stop until it's like 6 o'clock in the morning and you got work in 2 hours.
Sure.
For me, I stay away from Tumblr as much as possible.
That's
And I
not
stay
even
away
a
from
site
Reddit.
for me.
And Reddit, I stay away from that. Because you could just fall into it. YouTube used to be like that. I grew out of YouTube, but I still watch it for the videos I obviously want to watch. But I digress. I fell upon this theory, and you may have heard this theory, that the Beast, like when he transforms, he's 21, and there's like a certain amount of years that pass by according to the narrator. So it doesn't make sense because the evil witch that cast the spell would have casted that spell on like a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old.
Well, in the movie, they said it's been 10 years. So if he turns 21 during this process, that means he was 11.
11, right. So just imagine casting a spell on somebody that doesn't have parents.
Basically, you're tortured a child because he was being a child.
I'm just saying.
Look at that ugly person.
Look, here's what I'm saying. That kid might have been like a supreme jerk, like King Jerk.
King Joffrey.
But, right. And I don't want to mess with that witch because that witch is throwing spells on little children.
Exactly.
And she's like, I'm out.
She's the true villain of the story.
Like there's no comeuppance for her. I need to know. I have questions. I always have questions.
She actually becomes the Wicked Witch of the West.
That's I need to stay away from France if that's what's going down. Everyone says, they sound funny. I don't really care about that, but if they got wicked witches casting spells on preteens, I'm not about that.
Yeah, but to go back to the first experience thing, that's kind of what's changed, between watching it as a kid. I really don't have these questions. I'm just like, oh look, it's a clock that talks and a candlestick that's singing to me about coming to eat dinner. I don't think about the stuff we just went over. I don't think about why was this spell cast on an 11-year-old. I don't think about why...
Oh no, that's totally my adult mind.
Yeah, exactly.
I never thought about that as a kid. Yeah. That was kind of like, okay, I went to college now, and I'm still watching these movies. Oh, look at that. The timing doesn't really add up, does it?
Exactly. And then, but that's all the things that you see now. So the nostalgia's there, where it's like, yes, I loved this movie as a kid, but then now it's just like I'm questioning half the things that are going on. And then, that from there, I just have more questions. I'm like, this entire movie could have been avoided had the horse led the way for Belle's father.
You're blaming the horse.
I'm blaming the horse on everything. But
which, by the way, the horse really reminds me of the horse in Tangled. I'm fairly certain they just took that same character and they made it digital. And that's how you got the horse in Tangled.
I mean, all Disney movies are interconnected, right? Disney movie universe.
It has to be.
Yeah.
There's actually a theory that goes around, but that's another time.
That's for another time. But what about you? I mean, what was your first experience like? Because clearly, how did you see it in theaters? Because you were old enough by then, right?
I was 8 years old, if my math is right. Because I don't really remember how old I was, but I do remember vividly seeing it in theaters. Because I saw all of those movies in theaters. I saw, it was a whole string. It was Little Mermaid in '89. Then it was Aladdin. Then it was Beauty and the Beast. And then I think after that was Lion King.
Yeah.
That was, right. Yeah, that's all of them. I can't really remember I'm pretty sure I could look it up, but I'm just going on from memory. But I do remember seeing
Sounds about right.
Beauty and the Beast in theaters with my sister and my mom. And yeah, I was absolutely floored. It's funny because, we talk about Disney and we talk about Marvel all the time. And it's when you're looking at the dynamic, everyone said the fact that Disney purchased Marvel was because they wanted to start attracting, boys into the fold. But, I was a kid in the 90s and I was watching all of these movies about princesses and stuff like that, and I was like, I don't know why, I think this is kind of cool. I like this. I like this a lot.
Aladdin and Lion King had me hooked. I don't know what they were talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
And
So
Little Mermaid
Beauty,
had boobs, so that was fine.
I really couldn't formulate that. I just know that she had like the clamshell, and I was like, that's not something I see every day. So
This was a joke,
let's
but move
keep
on.
let's just keep watching.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, the Beast was a character that I was absolutely obsessed with. I was like, that is cool. Like, I really want to keep watching that.
Sure.
Um, and yeah, that was my first experience. I was like, I like Belle. Belle is cool. She's different from other characters that I was familiar with watching when I was a kid. You know, because I was not able to watch Cinderella in theaters. I was not able to watch Sleeping Beauty and Snow White in theaters. So, you know, you look at those characters and the things that they're talking about is very different from what Ariel is talking about, things that Jasmine is talking about, things that Belle and Nala and Pocahontas and
Right.
Mulan, like the characters get repeated. The I'm sorry, not the characters. I guess they're characters, right? The main protagonists become much more conscious, I suppose. They're not the damsel in distress, which is something that I've always really enjoyed. You know,
Right,
yeah.
the
So
strong female character type.
yeah, it's there was a line that I once heard where, you know, somebody was asking a question to one of the authors, and they said, "How do you make like strong female characters?" And the person responded, I can't remember who said this. It's like slipping my mind right now.
I mean, it might
But
be Joss Whedon, honestly.
it might be Joss Whedon. I thought it was him, but it might have been somebody else. Like I'm pretty sure multiple people said this.
Yeah, I'm sure
But
they have. In just recent memory, though, I feel like Joss Whedon said something about that.
it was his response or her response was the most important part is that you don't think of them as what was it? I can't remember what it was. Don't think of them as different, or don't think of them as like just think of them as people, and then you'll be
Right, not
fine.
as a gender.
Exactly. So, I never like female characters versus just characters. Is you like I just call them characters.
Right.
But they became much more independent and a lot more vocal and a lot more strong-minded and strong-willed, and I always liked that. So I thought that was cool. Even as a kid, I was just like that. Bella's very different from other characters, and she didn't want to be, courted by the likes of Gaston.
Right.
And Gaston was. I feel like all the dynamics of that movie was just very different and cool and strange but welcomed. You know what I mean?
Sure.
She didn't want to be courted, and she spoke her mind, and she was tight-lipped when she wanted to be. She was welcoming when she wanted to be. She was smart. She was intelligent, and
She read.
yeah, that's so very important. Reading is good for you guys. But that was my first experience. I don't. I mean, is there other things that kind of stuck out to you at all?
In terms of.
The movie, like anything that why that movie would stay on the top of your list versus others, or any other animated movie for that matter.
I mean, just the animation quality of it, I think, is really, really good. But as I'm watching it, like I knew the songs to the movie. However, they're never like at the top of my head when it comes, like, think of a classic Disney movie song. I'm like, oh, I think of Circle of Life. I think of Let Show You the World from Aladdin. I even think of Little Mermaid before I think of Beauty and the Beast. But then, like I said before, when I was watching it again, I'm like, these songs are very, very good.
Yeah.
And they immediately returned to my head the second I started, watching them as I revisited. And I kind of want to sing along with it every single time I hear it now. And I'm sure I'm going to want to do the same if the live action movie keeps most of the songs. So
I mean, they can't deviate from that.
Yeah.
Because when we talked about last year, I can now say last year in one of our previous episodes, we had our Halloween special and we were differentiating over the Frankenstein monster.
Right.
And then there's the Universal Studios version of Frankenstein.
Right.
What makes Beauty and the Beast and all of the hundreds of stories that they've kind of retold is the music. The music stands out, and that's what identifies those stories as Disney classics.
Right, exactly.
You know,
That's what
because
makes
you're
it theirs. Kind of.
exactly, you know, you can tell a story so many times, but the fact that you can still, you know, turn on a movie and, you know, hum along, that's where the genius really kind of stands.
Right.
And I think that's a testament to, you know, how Disney has been able to do this. I don't know. I mean, we'll talk about this later. I don't really know how I feel about the remake for reasons. We'll go into that, obviously. But let's keep talking about the movie review. Story. I mean, we will obviously talk about, you know, the story has been by and large the same for the most part. Like nothing really changes, and I feel like that story is going to remain for the most part the same.
I mean, you know, it's yeah, it's not much has changed between the different versions that have come out, right?
Mhm. Right.
It's I mean, it's a very classic tale almost. It's kind of in reverse of most tales. Like, you know, most tales it's like, oh, you know, the guy goes for the girl to rescue the girl from the tower, and you know they fall in love. That here it's kind of reverse. It's the prince who's in peril, and it's the princess, I guess, or the girl that would come to save the man. So, um,
Huh.
guess
Never
that's why
really thought about
it
it.
still works because it's still that classic fairy tale formula. But
True.
instead of
True.
the spell being cast on the girl and turning the girl into something, it's the guy.
Right.
Yeah,
Huh. I never really thought about that like that.
yeah, that's the
Yeah,
way I
man.
see
I've
it
watched.
anyway.
I mean, so obviously I'm a fan. That is the movie. I don't even think it was on purpose, but that is the movie I own the most copies of. Like I have the VHS tape, I
Really?
have the DVD. I just keep whenever it comes out, I buy it again, and it's not on purpose. It's like, but I have so many copies of the same movie. I have the VHS tapes. I just got the digital copy with the Blu-ray 3D edition. I had to get it again, like, and that's followed by Aladdin, and then Dead Last is Little Mermaid, because whenever it comes out, I always miss it for some strange reason. But I have the digital version now.
Always goes back in the vault.
It always goes back in the vault. Like I almost missed it. Do you wait? Do you have Little Mermaid?
Little Mermaid I have on DVD and on VHS, and I did not get the Blu-ray.
Do you have to tell me if Little Mermaid went back in the vault for digital?
For digital, it did not. You can still buy it.
Really
Yeah, it's still on iTunes.
interesting.
What I'm mad and you can't get it that went back in the vault is The Lion King. I missed that on digital.
Ah, I missed it too. But I'm pretty sure when they make the remake for Lion King, it'll come back out again. That would be silly if they didn't.
That's a tale for another story, but I'm kind of dreading it. As much as I love The Jungle Book, I love Jon Favreau. I don't know how that movie is going to work in live action, but we'll see what happens when that first trailer comes
Well,
out.
we're going to talk about. So we'll talk about this obviously when after the break. We're going to talk about, the origin of the story and some interesting facts that we found. I'm not going to get into it now. I'm just going to save it for later. I'm just going to save it for later.
All
So,
right.
were there any parts in the movie that you didn't like?
I did not
Because
like.
I feel like, yeah, I feel like there's always something where you're like, I could do without this.
Well, watching as an adult.
Oh man, you're going from there? Great, let's go.
Watching as an adult, that horse is useless.
Oh
And then
my
at the same
gosh.
time, that horse is too smart. The only reason the plot happens is because of the horse.
It's a catalyst, Josh. That's how it
Okay,
works.
so first the horse is like, hey, let's go this way, the not creepy way. And then the dumb human is like, no, let's go this way. And then so the horse could have saved him there. So that's strike one for the horse. Strike two for the horse. One, it finds its way back home somehow. I don't know how the heck
Somehow.
that happened.
I feel like that's not such a stretch
Okay, that may not be a stretch.
of the imagination. Like animals have this instinct; they know what's going on
What
way before we know what's going on.
What is a stretch is that the horse left Belle's father stranded in the woods and ran away. That horse had no idea where he went. Yet, the horse takes Belle straight to the castle.
I'm still going to chalk that up to animal instincts. It's just look.
You're giving the horse too much credit.
I am giving the horse so much. You remember Lassie? Did you ever see an episode of Lassie?
Lassie's a dog. That
Doesn't
made me
matter.
cry.
I'm just look. Animals do strange things. You have a dog, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, your dog. Have you ever had a cat?
No. I have friends that have cats.
Okay,
They're
so
very
you've
fluffy.
been to you've been to houses where people have cats,
Yes.
and you notice that cats act very strangely.
I mean, they're cats. Yes.
Exactly. So why is it that they act strangely? There's something going around inside their brain.
Yeah, they're
There's
crazy.
something going. I mean, they're not crazy. They're just not. We're not cats, so we don't get it. It's like any other thing. Like
Because
why
we're not
do?
crazy.
But that's not true. What I'm saying is like I don't I don't know. Like I never really thought about it like that. But I suppose as an adult, I would say that Maurice says he's not crazy, but he's kind of
Oh
crazy.
no, that he's crazy. Like freaking inventing a thing that chops wood. I mean, I
No,
know,
I don't think.
you
No,
know.
no, no. I don't think that's crazy. I just think like the man is borderline has probably has Alzheimer's.
I mean,
Like
that's fair, but
he
that's not
should
crazy at that
probably.
point. That's an illness.
He's not. Right. But what I'm saying is like he. There were certain things that he did in that movie where I don't know. Like I don't know. He was the only weird part in the movie for me. Like I get it. He's a lovable dad. You know, the absent mother, which is always in every single Disney movie ever,
Except for Bambi
um, except for which
for the first five
let's not
minutes.
let's not talk about that. That's actually tough for me to talk about
Oh my god.
because I'm serious. I'm not even trying to be like I'm not trying to kid. Like I remember watching that as a kid. I was like, I don't want to watch. I haven't watched
That's
all
kind of
of Bambi.
terrifying as a child, though.
Yeah, I couldn't watch the whole movie. I just couldn't do it. I was like, I will watch anything else. Looney Tunes cartoons, Disney cartoons, um, Disney movies. But for that movie, I don't know how that movie ends because I just would either I would turn it off, change the channel, walk away. I just couldn't do it. Just could not do it. Maurice was a little too absent-minded.
A little bit. But to go back to what I disliked, honestly, there's not much to dislike. Like the movie as a whole is very. If the only thing I would have to say honestly is that it's a little bit too fast in certain areas, but that's
It's
not
also a
necessarily
kids movie.
exactly that's what I was about to say. It's not necessarily a fault of the movie itself. It's just that you have that specific runtime that you have to fit it in. So of
Mhm.
course, certain things are going to move a little bit faster than normal.
Now, did
Um,
you ever see the extended version of the multiple DVDs and Blu-rays and digital? You had to have seen it. I know you saw it.
yeah, I have.
Okay.
So that makes it
So
a little bit better.
it adds to the experience.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, but yeah, the original. If we're talking about the original, I guess that's its only real problem, and that's a problem with most kid movies. Pretty much, it's that they have to stick to that specific runtime.
I
So
mean, but you've seen movies with children?
yeah,
Their attention span is terrible.
right,
Like,
exactly. So that's why I'm saying it's not a fault of of the movie itself. It's just a fault that hey, it's a kids movie. Kids movies got to be quick. They don't have that big long of attention spans. We got to get this done now.
I would also argue that I feel like that works to its credit. Like that movie, like every character is what it needs to be. Um, Everyone played their part. The music was on point. The story was on point, and the changes and the additions that Disney made to the story worked in my eyes. Um, and even watching it older now, I can appreciate it more, and I can appreciate the different parts of it. I can
Sure.
understand a little bit more of it. And so whenever I watch a movie, I always say I will give a movie an extra point on this arbitrary scale
Mm-hmm.
if I can watch it again. If I can watch it
Sure.
again and I feel like I got more out of it than the first time I watched it, then it's great. Again, when I watched it as a kid, I just wanted to see Beast run through things. And
Right.
yeah, I that movie's still great. I don't think I have any like bad points to make. That's a classic. Like that still stands the test of times over 20 years later.
Easily.
Easily. So
We just gotta hope that the live action does the same thing.
we're gonna talk about that. But yeah, what would you say before we go to our break? Memorable moments, like standout moments.
So the big one is gonna, of course, be the them dancing in the ballroom. That's
Okay.
the biggest one. But then also, I think just the whole, like I mentioned it a little bit before, but the entire "Be My Guest" song.
Okay.
Like,
So
to
you
me,
really can get
yeah.
with the music.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Okay. I can
Definitely
dig that.
That and I guess just because I like Gaston, just him like wrestling people and beating people up in the bar.
Yeah.
That's great.
I have a newfound appreciation for those scenes actually.
Yeah.
I could appreciate. I was just like, actually, Gaston's kind of cool. He's a little bit of, an
And you know
idiot.
what I've noticed? Like cartoons today, if you notice, they don't really show people punching people.
True.
Like they'll cut away right before they're being punched, and then the next
True.
shot is them just like being thrown back.
Yeah. It's
No,
like
no, you
Spider-Man.
literally see Gaston hit what's his name? LeFou?
LeFou. Yeah.
LeFou. You see him hit him straight on, and they do not cut away multiple times.
Oh, well, I mean, this is the same problem that Spider-Man had in, the original Fox cartoons, the Saturday morning cartoons. They never hit anybody.
Exactly. They never hit anybody, and they never had guns. They always had laser guns.
Laser guns.
In this movie, he freaking shoots an actual gun.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Near people.
And he's deadly. He's got bows and arrows. He's got swords. He's got bludgeoning weapons.
Yeah.
Gaston's a man's man.
And there's blood in this movie too. I didn't realize.
That is right.
There's blood in this movie.
I really enjoyed reviewing this movie. Memorable moments before we go. I've always really enjoyed the scene where Beast invites Belle to dinner, and she says, "I'm not going," and Beast loses his cool. Like he's just not okay with this. And one of the scenes that always kind of, I guess, like, as soon as I saw that scene, I was like, yep, I like this movie. The scene where Beast is running up the stairs and he leaps over the balusters.
Yeah.
And he slams the door and he's like trying to contain himself.
Mm-hmm.
That, especially as an adult, I can appreciate that way more than anything. Because I'm like, I have been in situations where I got really frustrated and I'm like, they are being really difficult right now.
You gotta kind of like calm yourself, and you're just like, come on, I gotta do this.
Right. I can totally understand that scene now as an adult than I did more as a kid. But Gaston scenes, I can see the appeal, not for nothing. He's got the muscles, he's got the charisma. He's a little too flamboyant for me personally.
Who, Gaston?
Gaston,
oh,
yeah. But I mean, he's the man's man. He's the man's man.
He's got chest on his hair. Hair on his chest. Wow.
And the they have the costume characters in Disney World. Do you know that costume character in Disney World actually does one-handed push-ups if you challenge him?
I have not tried that. However, I feel like I would lose anyway, so I'm not going to challenge.
Oh, I just think it's like the attention to detail is amazing.
It's so great.
Yeah, so on a nostalgia meter, for if we had fresh geek points, I would give this a 10.
I would give it a 9.
A 9. Ooh.
Yes.
Interesting. Intrigue. Okay.
Yes.
So, I think it's time for that break.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go to break. Everyone, we'll be back after some break music.
By the way, does this mean I have to play classical music because Beauty and the Beast and all that?
If you play Bach, like Johann Sebastian Bach, then I'm game.
Wait, seriously?
No, the usual. And then
learning time with, you guessed it, here's some booties and beats.
Welcome back, everyone. We are your hosts, Jace.
Wait.
And what? What?
Who's who?
What are you talking about?
Every time you come back from break, there's a reference to the topic with an introduction of who we are.
And
who's Beauty and who's the Beast.
Everyone, meet my co-host, Josh.
Hi.
And I'm Jace.
You didn't answer the question.
Hear the music.
Answer me.
In this episode of Learning Time, we talk about the classic Beauty and the Beast. It was originally written by author Gabriel Suzanne Barbeau de Villeneuve in the year 1740 in a collection of stories called The Young American and the Marine Tales.
The original story had many elements the popular version has today. Almost all the stories had the main character, Belle or Beauty, a father figure, a monstrous beast, an enchanted castle with peculiar occupants, and a rose. The original story was much longer and resembled much more relatable events that even readers today could identify with. Sibling rivalry and hard economic times coupled with bad luck.
The original story had some key differences.
And some similarities.
Belle had several siblings, 3 brothers and 2 sisters. This is reminiscent of the dynamic of Cinderella and how she was treated when no one was looking.
But Belle is still an avid reader and she loves roses.
Belle still doesn't have a mother in the original story.
And the reason why she initially does not take the Beast is because he got friend-zoned. People got friend-zoned in the 18th century.
The story ended the same way, with Belle declaring her love for the Beast in the end before the eventual transformation. The story was later abridged by Jean-Marie Le Prince de Beaumont to the story we are more familiar with today.
As with all stories, when the success of a story surpasses the lifespan of the original author, then the copyright becomes open for all to use. And many have. The story has been told countless times in plays, movies, TV series, novels, and more.
Disney made the tale popular in 1991 with its 30th animated film entry, and it was an instant success in its string of animated releases. But what you may not know is that there are no such thing as original tales. For example, Jane Eyre was inspired by the same tropes that are used in the tale of Beauty and the Beast.
And Beauty and the Beast was inspired by the tales that came before it, such as the story of Cupid and Psyche, which tells of an unexpected transformation allowing the 2 characters to be with one another.
Beauty and the Beast is a classic fairy tale that shows that beauty isn't skin deep, and with brains, courage, and a little love, you can overcome your greatest adversary. You can experience it for yourself in a tale as old as time.
Now that was interesting.
Question, comments, concerns?
I did not know that quite literally tale as old as time. This thing was made in the 1740s.
Yes, absolutely. And
I did not think it was that old.
Yeah, and it kept getting retold over and over, because you have to imagine you go to Barnes and Nobles,
yeah,
and you have a compilation of short stories.
Sure.
And everyone buys the compilation of short stories because that just makes economical sense.
Of course.
So you're buying this book because it has like 10 or 18 books in it. It's a big giant book. And you're reading this, and there's that one story that everybody likes. So you're not, at that point, you can't get that short story, anywhere. And I'm paraphrasing because I don't even think that this was a short story. I can't remember how many pages it was. But in any case, just imagine you're reading this book, and the only thing that you really love reading is that one short story that's like in the middle of the book.
How short is a short story?
A short story is 7,500 words.
That's fair.
This was not 7,500 words. This was a lot longer.
So then that means that, would you say the book was longer than the animated film or anything like that? What are some of the differences between that?
So in the animated movie, the father is an inventor. Right. In the original book, he's a merchant. He's like a sea merchant.
Oh, okay.
And there's still no mother, like we discussed before.
Sure.
But Belle, or no, it's not Belle, I'm sorry. It's Beauty. Her name is actually Beauty.
Okay.
It's strange, because the book was originally written in French. So yes, it's Belle, but her name is Beauty. Like, that's the difference between Belle and Beauty.
Well, doesn't the name Belle mean beauty?
It does, but her name changed to Belle. Like, I don't know how it would be. Like, that's kind of like saying, like, hey, this is a car jack. Like, the tool jack, but like, oh, and this is Jack. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we know the difference between the two, like Belle being a name versus like, she is Beauty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know how to explain it, but this
I
is the
mean,
best
I
way
guess
that I
you
can.
could say that's just the time frame. Like, certain words meant different things back then as they do now. So you
Exactly.
could say the same thing with names.
So, Belle had siblings, which I thought was the craziest part, and I thought that was strange when I first read it. This was back in like college, like years ago.
Sure.
But what I found really interesting were the different dynamics between all of them, because the brothers were really protective and they used to hunt. And there really isn't like a villain in this. The villains is kind of like her family that are saying that she couldn't go, and they're trying to keep her thumb over her, and her sisters wanted her to leave because she she was subservient to them, but she showed her own defiance in educating her own self and reading.
Right.
She really had an affinity for reading. So what happens is the father goes out on a business trip, which is crazy, right? Because it's like a business trip. Like, oh yeah, you and I both know what a business trip is. It's not like, oh, I'm going to the fair to sell this invention that chops wood. Like,
Right.
it seems laughable now, but that was the story. It wasn't the fairy tale, but this was the story. So he goes out on this business trip and he says, I'm going to be gone for a while. I'm going to bring back everyone presents. What do you want as gifts? So the three boys say, we would like weapons, we want horses, and we want things that boys want. The two daughters say they want clothes, they want perfume, they want nice expensive things for girls.
Girly stuff.
Right. And I had expected the first time I read it for Belle to say, I want books. But she said all she wants is a rose, which is like easy. You could find a rose anyway, but she wants a nice, beautiful rose.
Go outside. There's a rose right there. There you go.
Well, for the story purposes, it changes a little bit. So
Of
anyway,
course.
the father goes out and the ship crashes. It's crazy to me because it's like, this is real. He goes on this business trip. The ship crashes. I think he might have been attacked, but I can't really remember because it was a really long time since I last read it.
By Monstro.
No, there were no monsters. I think it might have been pirates. I don't know. But in any case, he lost all of his fortune and his livelihood in the ship. So, he gets washed ashore and he comes back and he's like, sorry, kids, we got nothing. I couldn't get you any presents. But then what happens is that somebody discovers the ship, but it's held by somebody else. So he has to go reach back to it. He gets back to the ship and he couldn't get it again. I'm really trying very hard to remember the story to the best of my ability.
You're doing good so far.
But on his way back, when he realizes that he couldn't get it back, he comes across this castle. And what's strange about this castle is that he gets invited in, but there are invisible occupants. Like, he doesn't see anybody, but he hears the voices. So he's like, okay, I guess I'll stay here. He spends the night. He wakes up. Everything's fine. Like, there's no... And I know what's going through your head. You were like, what? This is not what you think that happens in the animated movie. The animated movie is really taking some principled parts, and they're like taking liberties, and they're bridging the pieces together as much as humanly possible.
Definitely.
So he wakes up and he's like, oh man, I couldn't get my kids anything. I guess I'm going to go home empty-handed. And he sees this rose patch. And he's like, oh, crap. Beauty wanted a rose, so I'm just going to get her a rose. So he takes out, these clippers, from his tool belt. And he cuts it, and a beast attacks him. Like, this monster attacks him, and he says, you weren't supposed to take that. Now I have to kill you. And he's like, whoa, wait a minute. Like,
that's a
can't we
little
just...
dark.
Yeah, that's like way to the point. So what happens after that? He bargains for his life. And he says, okay, if you let me live, I'll give you something. And he's like, what? And this is the part that I'm shady on. But somehow he bargains that if the father lives, then Belle, somehow he chose Belle or Beauty to like take his place. Oh no, he found out. I'm trying to remember this very carefully now. I think he said, I'm a father and I have children at home. And he's like, he starts asking more information and he says, if you want to live, I'll let you go, but you have to have someone take your place.
Okay.
And so, like that, now that I'm telling that story, that actually makes a lot more sense because if you have 6 kids and you don't want to die because you don't want to leave 6 kids without a father,
Right.
so
Parentless,
it makes
completely.
yeah, exactly, like orphans.
Yeah.
So
that's the word I was looking for.
Yes. So he basically reasons in his mind. I really need to read the story again because this is actually much more interesting than I thought now that I'm explaining this to you. But I would imagine in his mind he's saying, I don't want to leave 6 kids without a father. I don't want to have them be orphans. So I could die here or take care of 5 kids and give one up. I know it sounds screwed up, but like think about like what would you do in that situation?
I mean, it's definitely a hard choice because either lose your own life or be like, you know what, I can at least still father these kids, but I kind of have to give up one.
Right. I mean, I found that crazy.
Yeah.
To me anyway. So he goes home and I think Belle is the one that volunteers because she's the only one that's like most courageous enough to like make that trade. And so
Sure.
she goes back willingly and it stays like that story pretty much takes place inside the castle.
Right.
And, they develop the relationship. And I think at one point or another, Beast asks Belle to marry him. She says no, because I could never see you that way. So he got friends though. Like that's like I just remember, reading that part. I was like, this guy just totally got friend zoned. We talk about this, in common everyday vernacular, but this is something that people were dealing back with, like, I don't see you like that. Sorry. It's just not going to happen. So,
tale as old as time.
Tale as old as time. It's awful, right? So, anyway, I think what happens is that obviously a relationship kind of blossoms and, the kiss happens and that was it. He transforms before her. But there's a lot that I'm missing. Like I'm really skipping over like big parts, and that's why I know it wasn't a short story. It was a long story in a bigger book of more stories. But in any case, Beaumont comes in and he adapts it and he takes out a lot of stuff. Like he takes out the siblings and he takes out some other key parts. But he basically makes that story of real life into a fairy tale. He's responsible for that. And, that's the part that Disney got. Disney got that abridged version, the short, concise, ready to consume version. And they made it their own, obviously. And they added a killer soundtrack. And it's sitting on top of it all.
I'm trying to like imagine because I've honestly never read the books. Mm-hmm. Or the book, the original, I guess. I don't know. Or, any of the abridged versions. It's hard for me to imagine, like, how the story would be different with siblings in there and, her, being obsessed with roses. Like, in the animated film, she's not that obsessed with roses. Like, she obviously goes into the room and sees the rose and she's like, ooh, this is cool. That's really the only time she interacts with it.
So maybe I'm saying it, not the right way. I don't think she was obsessed with roses, but
right. But even
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, but even so, like those little differences would change the story like a lot,
So it would. But what I found really interesting was that the brothers were the ones that wanted to go after the Beast after Belle left. So I thought that was a very interesting dynamic, which was kind of like what Gaston kind of ends up doing. But there was nobody that was interested in her.
Right. But in this case, it's like, oh, well, now we got to save our sister, so it's a different dynamic.
right, but the lynch mob that happens, when they come parading through the door in the animated film is kind of the beginning of what happens when the brothers say we're going to go save our sister.
Right. It's
So
true.
I mean so there's a lot of, it's interesting, and whenever you see stories like this and they're adapted into, um they're just constantly readapted and retold and reimagined. This happens. What you may think is something that's glossed over was something that was very much embellished and concentrated on by the original author. I just realized something. One of my favorite stories is Harry Potter. You know this because this is
Of
also
course.
one of your favorite.
Yeah.
Could you imagine somebody else retelling that? I would be very mad if somebody gave an abridged new version of Harry Potter. Like, I would get defensive.
I mean, I would probably be open to it just to
No,
see.
I would not be open to it at all.
Well, I
I
mean, I
refuse.
wouldn't say like, "Oh, this is now the definitive." Like, no, I would not say that at all. But I would be open to it in the fact that I would like to see a different interpretation of it.
No.
Um,
You want to know why? The different interpretation is Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and I'm trying my very, very hardest to read that book, and I, I'm not gonna say it's awful, but it's not the same.
it
It's
reads
not.
that reads more fan fiction almost.
Oh God, fan
That's the way
fictions
I feel it.
can be bad for you.
Oh no, it could be horrible.
Oh, and I'm not knocking the book, but it's not rolling. It's clearly not rolling,
Right.
and that's my issue with it. But yeah, those are the differences in the book. I don't really know if there's anything different because the story is told many times throughout the years, and what I didn't know upon researching, now we're pulling the curtains, from the show.
Sure.
Yes, we do research, and what I found really interesting is that like this story is told in many different ways. Jane Eyre is another one where Jane goes to the castle with this, not a beastly of a man, but somebody who transforms into something that he outwardly appears, and then spending time he transforms into this other type of character.
Sure.
So the tropes are always there, and Campbell talks about heroes and myths and Star Wars and the classic good versus evil. We always talk about this
Right.
all the time, and one of the newer ones is the tired and the dark and the weary superhero that we see today with Batman, which is, I think, why he's so popular and it's so such a successful story, because here's a person that has lived his life through the ringer, and he's trained himself, but he can't bring himself to do the one thing that's obviously very clear that he should do,
Right.
which is kill the bad guys. But he has a moral code, and that's what makes him such an enticing character. I always
Yeah.
like that.
He's on that line, but he knows that he has to stay on the one side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
But that's really interesting in the fact that this story has survived this long now. Like I really like it when you can say when you can trace back a story like that far, or I mean what is that 300 years now, almost
about
300
that,
years, right?
about that, it's about
Right.
that.
So I mean I find it really cool when you can say that that we're still talking about something that came out 300 years ago. Like that's really cool to me.
I mean, so if a story is good, it's going to live forever, and
Exactly.
that's what I really like about it. My challenge for you is I challenge you to go to bar. I mean, you know what? I take that challenge back because it's going to be an easy challenge. You could find it anywhere. I was going to say you should try and find the original book and read it and see what your thoughts are in it,
I mean
because I would love to get your take on it.
with today's technology I could probably find it in about 15 minutes.
Maybe 15 seconds. It's got to be on good. It has to be. That's one of those books where, because you know how, like, if you're looking on your iPad, you go to
Yeah.
iBooks and then you look, and then you can find like all these free books.
Yeah.
That's because they're all open for everyone to distribute. Like
It's
you can
probably
find
one of them.
Sherlock. Yeah, Sherlock Holmes you can find, which is crazy because Sherlock Holmes is a great freaking book.
Right.
You know.
But
Yeah,
it's also, like you said, it's everywhere.
it's everywhere. So Google Book results. I'm pretty sure you can search for it and find it right there on your screen.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's definitely something that you should check out.
Yeah, one day I
One
might do it because
one
every once in a while I do enjoy readings. So we talked about Harry Potter last, of course, and then I do some other readings and things like that. That could be
we
one of them.
talked about that Harry Potter experience. We really didn't dive into the books. I would like to have a podcast where we dive into like episode, like I don't know, whatever episode 20, let's say, and like we just talk fully about book one,
Right.
the Philosopher's Stone or the Sorcerer's Stone. I would love for that to happen. I think that would be a fun episode where we read like some of our favorite. I mean, obviously, it would be like a book club
Right.
where we kind of talk and you know other people would kind of get on the call and we just have a discussion about like favorite parts and what you think about this line because you would read a book and what you get is very different from what I would get.
Right.
uh,
For sure.
so
But yeah. But now we have a new interpretation coming out.
that is true.
Well, would you call it new? Because I mean, it's technically based off the animated version that
Of
Disney
what I
already
already
made.
did, which is I don't know. I don't know if I'm tired of it because I just how we were talking before. Jungle Book is currently on Netflix.
Right.
I finally saw it maybe 3 weeks ago, probably about 3 weeks ago,
It was
and
really
I
good, wasn't it?
really enjoyed it.
It was really good.
Um,
Did not expect it to be that good.
who was your
Honestly.
favorite character?
Favorite character?
Favorite character. 1, 2, 3, go.
Uh, God, names. I'm forgetting. The Panther.
The Panther. Okay, I can tell you right now, it's Idris Elba. Shere Khan. He made that movie. If Shere Khan was not in that movie, I would not have enjoyed that movie at all.
That's fair. I mean, anything Idris Elba's in is amazing. So you are correct.
Are you watching Luther? Did you watch Luther? Asterisk to the side.
You know that is in my queue. It's been in my queue. I have not watched it though, but it's in my queue.
Dude, you are
I know.
missing out.
I know. I heard he's amazing in that.
He is so good. He is so good. I can listen to that man talk all day.
It's in my queue, but I have not watched it. One of the reasons why I love Pacific Rim as well.
Oh, yeah, but now you have a whole series dedicated around having him talk
It's true. It's
and
very
just
true.
act and just be like, when everyone says like, "Oh, Idris Elba is in Thor," I'm like, doing what? He doesn't do anything.
He stares.
And he stabbed the ship in the second movie.
It's true. He did do that.
He stabbed the ship. He like big giant dagger. I digress.
He ran up the bridge and stabbed it.
He stabbed it. Anyway,
And it was probably CGI.
obviously, but I mean, whatever. Anyway,
Moving on.
trailer, new movie, lots of A-list actors in this movie.
Yes.
Are we anticipating? Yes or no, Josh?
I am anticipating. I would very much like to see it. Just off the trailer, the first trailer that came out, I was like, okay, I'm intrigued. You have my attention a little bit. You know, you're gathering it. Then the first trailer dropped, and I was like, okay, I can get behind this. And then the final trailer recently came out. What was it, like a week or two ago, right?
Probably a week or two as
Yeah.
of this recording.
Yeah, as of this recording, it came out a week or two. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I am down to see this. It definitely visually looks really stunning. I love the fact that Emma Watson's in it. I do like some of the actors that are playing, some of the different people. So like, Luke Evans is Gaston. We got Ewan McGregor. We got Obi-Wan playing Lumiere. We have Josh Gad, which I don't know how that's going to work out. I do like Josh Gad though. We got him playing LeFou. We got Ian McKellen as Cogsworth. I mean, there's so many people that are in this movie, and I'm excited to see how they all do their part. I was reading the other day that Ewan McGregor, he had to redo his song because he said he wanted to get it just right. So the fact that they're going back and kind of like making sure that this is up to par with the original, I'm very excited to see that.
Sure.
And then there was also that other. Did you see the video of Emma Watson singing? Well, it was a clip of the movie, I believe. Yeah.
I saw. It's like I always feel like I get bombarded with all it because there's so many movies that are coming out in 2017.
Sure.
And I feel like I can't dedicate all my time to all of these movies. I'm gonna have to choose.
I'm gonna be broke by the end of this year. I can tell you that
Yeah,
much.
this is going to be bad. But yeah, I'm sure I did see it. I'm sure I did.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm very excited about this, and I mean, they did Cinderella, right? They did Jungle Book. Now they're doing.
Maleficent, you forgot that. Don't
I
forget
did
that.
forget
That's the one.
Maleficent. You are right. I'm
That
sorry about
that's
that.
that's the one that started this all. I
Did
think anyway.
did Cinderella come out after Maleficent?
It certainly did.
So yeah, I guess Maleficent would be the starting point.
Mm-hmm.
So Maleficent / Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, Jungle Book, and now you have Beauty and the Beast. Um, I mean, Jungle Book in itself was already a success, but if this also becomes a success, all those rumors of all the other Disney animated classics being made besides Lion King, because that one was already confirmed, they're just gonna keep doing this. And honestly, as long as they're good, I'm kind of okay with it. Honestly,
Okay.
what's your take on it?
What's my take on what?
On the movie, the trailers first of all, and then Disney just saying, you know what, we're gonna take these animated classics and make them into live action.
So you're asking me, are we anticipating the newest Beauty and the Beast movie?
That is exactly why I'm asking.
I'm not anticipating it.
Okay, why? Let's hear your side.
I okay, so when they announced it, I said, okay, I really wasn't like for or against it. I was like, okay, I really enjoyed the movie, obviously, because we talked before the break. And then they started talking about casting. And I said, okay, you're gonna have to pick like the best Belle ever. And then they made the announcement that Emma Watson was gonna be in there. And I had like, the not the Grinch smile, but like a legitimate like, yes. Like, okay, you guys get it. Obviously, Emma Watson very much wants to be the character. She's going to bring probably a new side of the character that we never even thought even existed.
Sure.
So I was very much on board. And then I always try and take myself away from this because I never want to be too invested like in pre-production and see things that I don't want to see.
Right.
I didn't even know who Gaston was going to get played by up until recently.
Oh, okay.
And then I saw a video. It's the funniest. You know what, guys? We're going to put a little, pinpoint right here. Look in the description. I'm going to post a video. It was on Instagram because I follow The Rock on Instagram.
Do I want to know where this is going?
Yes, of course you do. I follow The Rock on Instagram. He doesn't post anything dirty. Anyway, it was.
That's not what I meant.
I don't know what else. I don't know what you're talking about. But in any case,
just keep going.
it was the character from Hamilton. He's really big now. His last name is Lin-Manuel, and I'm looking at The Rock's Instagram, and there was a video that he posted sometime during the production of Moana. And Moana, was this animated movie that came out, did really well. I unfortunately haven't seen it yet, but
Same.
I will very soon. But the video was really interesting to me, and it caught my attention, and I said, oh, this makes perfect sense. This makes perfect sense. And it was Lin-Manuel Miranda and The Rock singing Gaston's song. You know the song, when they're in the bar.
Oh, I know the song.
Yes. So just imagine The Rock and Lin-Manuel Miranda as LeFou just singing. And The Rock is posing and he's flexing. And I'm like, please tell me that The Rock is playing Gaston. Because I just thought of it, but it would be perfect. And then I looked on IMDb and it's not. It's Luke Evans. And I'm not saying I don't like Luke Evans. He seems more menacing than bulky. And Gaston in the movie is very bulky. Menacing, but I think if they had casted The Rock and you put like a little wig on him, it would have been perfect. And who knows? That's my fan casting back in the 90s. Remember Wizard Magazine? That's my fan casting. That's what I would have done. But as I started looking and I started posting like the teaser trailers and the first trailer and the official trailer, I don't know if I'm anticipating this as much as I feel like I want to anticipate it. One of my primary concerns is I don't like the way the characters look. I thought like when I saw Lumiere and Cogsworth, I thought that I was looking at pre-visualization concept artwork,
Hmm.
but that's what they look like. And I'm like, uh, not really feeling Chip right now, not really feeling any of the characters. I don't know if I like Beast like in the final trailer, and we'll post this one also in the description as well. You finally get to see Luke Evans as Gaston.
Right.
And you
Now
know,
imagine The Rock with that hair, honestly.
I that does not what bothers me. What bothers me is that you see him, he's leaning in, he's like, "You're the most beautiful thing I ever saw." And he's staring at a mirror. And I'm like, "Oh, that's good." Like, okay, you got a little bit of the humor,
Sure.
but his chin is down as if he's on, GQ. And I'm in the movie, the animated movie, Gaston has his chin up. So I don't know
Right.
why he's posing like he's machismo. He's boasting, he's prideful, he's courageous, he's arrogant. That's
Sure.
not the action that I would imagine Gaston to have. So I mean there are parts that I find, and again, I'm just watching a trailer. I get it. It's artwork based onto itself. But I don't know. It makes me feel weird. I don't know how I feel about it. Obviously, I'm going to see it because I want to see it. And I feel like that movie would be something that you were looking for before. You were saying before that the movie is too short because it's kids and all that stuff. Now you get to have the full movie. Now you probably get to see things that they wanted to have in the animated movie that they simply did not have the time or the budget for.
Right.
So we get to see all that stuff, and who knows, you might get to see some things that were in the original book that we were never able to see. There's lots that you could do with it, but the look, the look. One of my favorite characters is the Beast, still to this day. And I look at that
Sure.
movie, and I'm like, the way that character moves, I can't imagine what I see in the trailer for the Beast moving the way I would imagine him to do. I always had a problem with monster characters in certain movies, like American Werewolf in Paris. Have you ever seen that movie?
I've seen not recently. It's been a while, but yeah.
I always felt like those characters look weird. I always felt like they could look better. Underworld is the only one that gets kinda close. Kinda close. You know,
It's fair.
uh Prisoner of Azkaban. They had a werewolf in there, and I thought that the werewolf looked kind of stupid. Honestly, I thought he looked really stupid. And in my mind, the way Lupin was supposed to be as a werewolf was not the werewolf that I saw in that movie.
Okay.
You remember Fenrir in the very
Yes.
last book?
Yes.
How I imagined him was not how he looked in the movie. And I'm like, no, you just stop screwing up werewolves. You constantly screw them up.
Right.
So I don't know. Um, the Gray with Liam Neeson. That's the only werewolf that I saw was looked amazing on film, but it's an actual quote unquote werewolf.
I mean, yeah, that's a little bit different. I would
It
feel
is a little
like.
bit different, but like that is a large, wolf.
Right.
That's as close as in my mind, how I thought it would look and not make it look weird at the same time.
Right. Not make it look awkward or something.
Yeah, so that's my concern with that movie, and I'm really hoping that the movie kind of moves me in a different direction because I know Belle is going to, or I'm sorry, Emma Watson is going to play her role. I like Josh Gad. I like Ewan McGregor. I like
Right. Like the
uh
cast is great.
the cast is all great. Like I can't make any complaints about that, but the look of it is what I suppose I'm concerned about,
Right.
especially when we live in a day and age where you know, Marvel movies out the wazoo, they make everything look so realistic.
Right. Well,
I,
maybe that's part of the aesthetic. Like it's like, okay, we're gonna make a live action. We're gonna make it, with this kind of style, and I guess the style that they're going for just makes it look a little bit more cartoony. I don't know, because
I don't,
it's based on the animated movie.
but you don't have to go that route. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean,
I
I
mean,
don't
I
know.
don't know. I mean, to me, honestly, it looks pretty good. Does it look like the best CG animation work I've seen? Absolutely not.
That's my
But
problem.
yeah,
And then the Beast just looks like he's just wearing this big giant like costume on his head, and I'm like, I don't find this believable.
right.
So
Yeah, we'll see.
the movie maker inside of me says we probably should go back to the drawing board with this one. Not saying scrap the project, just have a little bit more believable. Like maybe, who knows? Maybe, as they were making this, they probably had really good, great concept designs for the Beast, and they said, we probably want to dial it down considering the people we're aiming for are ages 6 to like 12, and we don't want to push them away. Like I can see that being a totally viable or a reasonable, comment that
Right.
Disney as a board would say. So who knows? I don't think it's going to be bad because I think they put a lot of story, effort and work, and I think the music, if anything, is probably going to win me over. But right now, as it stands, the look of it looks a little weird to me.
All right. Well, I mean, that's why this is called Fresh Geek Context, right? We have two different perspectives on the same thing.
This is how it works.
This
This
is
is
exactly
how it works.
how it works. But in any case, we're both going to go see it, obviously.
Obviously,
For,
and then we'll have the movie review, which will be probably half the show because I don't think a movie review should ever take longer than half an hour, right?
Yeah, I mean, we did pretty well with the animated before, didn't we?
Yeah. So we said we were going to talk about the movie review for the original animated movie. I give it a 10. You give it a 9. Then we went to break. Then we did learning time. We did this. Oh, I remember.
What?
There was something else I wanted to read.
You're all about this reading thing, aren't you?
Reading is fundamental. So listen, I came across this book. I was handed this book, and it's a kid's book. It's
Sure.
The Life of a King by Logan E. Malden, and I was reading it. I got about halfway through. I'd like to continue reading it, but this is something I've always kind of wanted to do. I know you do playthroughs, or
Right.
am I saying that right?
That sounds right.
Okay, playthroughs through these games, and I've been watching it. You do good work. I like it. But I always like the concept of reading because we always talk about movies and TV shows, but you're never going to have movies and TV shows if you don't have a story.
Right.
So this is the life of a king. I'll read the back and I'll read the introduction because the introduction is fairly short. Life of a king. Isaac is a young boy who wants to be a normal kid. But how could you be a normal kid if you are a king? He realizes that his responsibilities are overwhelming and he needs to figure out how to get away. Isaac has two best friends who are tired of being searched every time they visit him and wants a normal friendship. On his journey, Isaac realizes something very important, which allows him to discover, enjoy the adventure. So that's the back of the book.
Okay. Sounds pretty interesting.
Interesting so far, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And I thought this introduction was really great, and I'll read this to you here and now.
All right, go for it.
Introduction. There's normal and then there's weird. You could paint a picture easily with your mind and think of what's the usual and anything else is unusual. Kids eating, laughing, whispering, and talking about sports, books, and friends. Except me. I have a table to myself. There's nothing wrong with me, really. I can speak. I am conscious. I can reason. What may be unusual are the two bodyguards, Ray and Finn, stationed near the entrance to the dining hall and the fire exit. They have last names, but they already attract unwanted attention with their height and silence. The black suits also stick out like a sore thumb. Even the teachers fidget in their presence. I take a bite of the pasta. It's okay. It's been tested by Ray and Finn already. I close my eyes and pretend the scoop that they took out of the mashed potatoes isn't there, but when my eyes open, the scoop is still there. Ray and Finn are still there. Even when I leave to go to the bathroom, they're still there. I know most of the kids talk about it. At the very least, they think about how weird it is. But there's a reason, I swear. My father died from cancer when he was only 46 years old. Because I'm his only child, that left me in power at the age of 11. Now I've reached 8th grade. The subjects are hard, but I have the added responsibility to make important decisions that could change the whole world, for better or for worse. Can't forget to finish my homework, and then there's football practice. Sometimes I like having a full plate, so that it keeps me focused, but sometimes I have too much on my plate, so I get overwhelmed. John came over after school ended to say hi. After 8 guards searched him, he smoothed his hair down and waved in exasperation. I know he'll reconsider saying hello to me in the future. When you are king, there is no time off. But that could be anybody's reality. Sometimes I just get really tired and just want to rest and have no responsibilities. I try to do that on weekends, but my Saturdays consist of football games and my Sundays are for me to prepare for the start of the week. So, I really don't have any time for myself. With that being said, I welcome you to take a journey with me and I will show you the life of a king.
Hmm.
That's the introduction.
That's very interesting.
Right? I was reading ahead and I want to read this book. I'd love to review this book. It's short. It's it's a short, not a short story, but this is, let's see here, 65. It's about 67 pages.
Wow. Okay.
So it's a quick read. But from what is happening, it looks like, Isaac in the story goes through a little adventure. And, he's some plans are being concocted. We'll just put it like that.
Gotcha.
I have something else.
Ooh, what?
So we're gonna do a plug because we always talk about the people that we love watching on YouTube that everybody loves watching, like Andre, the Black Nerd. We
Love
always
you,
talk
Andre.
about Cinema Sins.
Loves you, Cinema Sins.
Okay, we always talk about who else is there. I mean, there's so many people that there's How It Should Have Ended. Those guys
Team
are
4
great.
Star.
Team 4-Star. I mean, listen, the list goes on and on and on. Tyrone Magnus, I love watching him. He's great.
Tyrone's great.
Tyrone's great. But there's a new YouTuber who's actually doing kind of what I just did right now, and her name is Aleha, and she's on YouTube right now. She just started a little while ago. I fell upon her videos, and she does this. She does reading. So I mean, really, what she does is she takes these books. They're paranormal science fiction books, and it looks like to me that she has like this leaning towards picking books that are really bad, like really, really terrible books. And what happens is when she reads it, her facial expressions kind of show the anguish that she's experiencing in the moment.
Right.
So I'm going to put a link for the book that she's reading now. She's reading a book called Smoldering Hunger. I read the first chapter, and sometimes for me, when I'm reading a book, like the first chapter usually decides if I'm going to read it. So like the first chapter, if I were reading it on my own, I'm pretty sure I would have just put it down and like tried something else.
Right.
Second chapter got a little bit interesting. Third chapter is great. But yeah, I fell upon this, and it's great. So I have the link here. I'm gonna mention it here. It's www.youtube.com/user/Aleha. How you spell that is A as in Apple, H as in Howard, L as in Lawrence, E as in Eric, Y as in Yellow, H as in Howard, A as in Apple. Aleha.
Pretty cool name.
Pretty cool name. And I think, Josh, you should check this out. Like I said, we'll put this in the description so even you can click on it.
Even I can click on it?
Even you can click on it.
Oh, it's so cool.
I know, right? So that's it. That's all we got for this episode. I mean, we tried to keep it quick, but I'm pretty sure we went over time because that's how we do. We just always go over it.
Yeah, but we did it.
Yeah, right? So what's coming up before we go? I mean, we got,
Sports.
What?
Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. You watch football?
Commercials.
Oh, casually.
Barely.
Okay. But wait. This episode is going to air after the game.
Yeah.
Okay, so who do you think is going to win?
Do I look like I even know who's playing?
Yeah. No, you don't. Okay. So The country is rooting for the Falcons, and the New England states are rooting for the Patriots.
Doesn't everyone love Brady and the Patriots?
I could do without him.
What's his deal?
Meh.
We just took a full 360 here. We went from books to sports. No correlation at all.
No, not at all. Okay, so do you root for the underdog, Josh?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I don't ever root for the team that wins all the time because that makes you a front runner.
You don't like front runners? No, we don't like front runners. Nope. I don't.
No, okay. I root for the underdog, Josh.
So, who do you think is gonna win it? Super Bowl 2017.
Super Bowl. Welcome to the S Show. Okay. Honestly, I think it's probably going to be the Patriots again, but I'm betting on Atlanta.
Who?
Atlanta. Never mind. Okay, if you're listening to the show on Monday morning and the Falcons win, then just imagine me with my Grinch smile.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch.
Thank you
For what?
so much for tuning in.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, if you like what we had to say, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at Jace Rockland, and Josh.
I am at JCA90. You can also find us at FGC Podcast or email us at freshgeekcontext@gmail.com.
You can also visit our website at freshgeekcontext.com for past episodes. And lastly, if you could, please hit that subscribe button for us on iTunes. It goes a long way for us to know that you're listening. Go to the podcast section or the podcast app on your iPhone or iPad and share with your friends so they can be Fresh Geeks too. Everyone, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
No one's slick as Gaston. No one's quick as Gaston. No one's neck is incredibly thick as Gaston.
I want a neck as thick as that Gaston. Okay, guys, we'll see you later.
Ugh, that's a big neck.